Today, we hear the Christmas story according to the author of John's Gospel. Now, John is a theologian and a mystic, so he writes of the meaning of Jesus' birth, and he writes from his theology and from the imagination of his prayers. No shepherds, no star, no kings, no Bethlehem, no manger, no Joseph, and no Mary. Had John been writing for the 21st century, he might have started his version of the good news of Jesus with the words, "Let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start." And so we're transported way back to the beginning of time, to before the beginning of time, before anything at all was created, before the world began. The Word, the Logos, the Christ, was with God and was God. Was God. In the beginning, the Word was God. Astonishing. We're meant to be astonished. We're meant to be hushed. All our theologizing about Christmas and the Incarnation is silenced by this pushing back of the story to the very beginning of all things. I've read that the beginning of John's Gospel can be understood as a midrash on the beginning of Genesis. A midrash is a way of commenting on a part of the Hebrew Scriptures to get at the deeper meaning of the passage. So to say that this is a midrash on Genesis is to say that we're going to connect the two, that what we read will help us understand each passage more clearly. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. Think about that. He who was with God in creation, the one who is God revealing himself to humanity, this one became a person, became flesh and blood. As completely human as you and me, but also a person who was the Word, who was God's own self. And then the very next thing we're told is that all things were made through him. That would be as in all things, everything, everyone. Simply breathtaking. Which would explain everything about who we are. We are those people who have promised and continually promise over and over again to seek and serve Christ in all persons. Not some people, not most people, but all people. Most unfortunate, this good news John is proclaiming at the beginning of the fourth gospel. Unfortunate because very often we don't want to recognize the Word, the Logos, the Christ, in all persons. There are some persons we might not want to be of Christ so as not to have to serve them. Christmas is so much easier if you just stick to the nativity scene and think about cuddly sheep and a cow in the background and hay in the manger and shepherds falling all over themselves with excitement like so many children under the Christmas tree. Which, by the way, doesn't seem to be a part of the story either. Until you get to the part about light. In him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Matthew, Luke, and John share one special way of telling it. There's one image, one symbol, and only one, that they all use to talk about the birth in Bethlehem. They all talk about light. The light of the star in Matthew. The light that shone around the shepherds in Luke. The true light that enlightens everyone in John. The light shines in the darkness, John proclaims. And somehow we understand this. And we understand that this truth cannot be better expressed in any other words with any other image. What John and Luke and Matthew all say about Christmas is that a new light begins to shine. Gradually, quietly, but with absolute certainty. And by that light, we can begin to see. By that light, we can begin to see who we are and who we are created to be. For it is in the person of Jesus that what it means to be a human being is finally made clear. In him we see that our lives are made whole. In him we see that hope needs never be abandoned. Never. And that we contain possibilities beyond our imagining. So here in this corner is the Word, and all that he has done since before time, in time, and beyond time. And in the other corner is John, the man who was a lampstand. He was not the light, but he came to bear witness to the light. So now maybe we could do that too. We could bear witness to the light that comes from the Word who was with God and was God in the beginning. Maybe we could be like John and be a lampstand from which this light that comes from the Word who was with God and was God in the beginning can shine forth. That first Christmas, the light shone, and it continues to shine. By that light, we have been given the power to become children of God and to take our places in the light. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. All of those other lights, the ones on trees, on shopping centers, on houses and office buildings, are, at best, a faint reminder of the light we celebrate during this holy season. The new light that shines from Bethlehem and from the very heart of God. That's our gift, our legacy, our prize, and always our sacred calling to name and to share. That is the Christmas story. That's our story.